Hello and welcome to our discussion of the top-selling manga, light novel and their volume in Japan for the week of February 6 to 12, according to Oricon. There were some interesting new entries and old favorites on the list, so let's take a closer look. At number 10, we have MF Ghost, a racing manga written by Shuichi Shirgino that sold 68,747 copies. This series has been ongoing since 2018 and features a young driver named Kanata living in a world where electric cars have replaced gasoline ones. Next up, at number 9, we have Mix, a baseball manga by Mitsuru Adachi that sold 69,150 copies last week. This series began in 2012 and is a sequel to Adachi's earlier works Touch and H2. At number 8, we have Yomi no Tsugai by Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Full Metal Alchemist. This supernatural manga sold 75,948 copies and centers around a boy who can see spirits and a girl who can exorcise them. Moving on to number 7, we have Kawaii Dake Janai Shikamori-san by Kigo Maki, which sold 80,109 copies. This romantic comedy series began in 2018 and follows a high school couple with opposite personalities. At number 6, we have Tokyo Revengers by Ken Wakui, which continues to sell well even after ending its run. This time-traveling delinquent manga sold 84,013 copies last week and features a young man trying to prevent the tragic events of his past. Breaking into the top 5, we have Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto, which sold 99,624 copies. This action-horror manga follows a young man who becomes a devil hunter after merging with a chainsaw demon. At number 4, we have a new entry, The Fable, Second Contact by Katsuhisa Minami, which sold 102,285 copies. This series began in 2014 and centers around a legendary hitman who tries to live a normal life. Moving into the top 3, we have the legendary basketball manga Slam Dunk, new edition by Takehiko Inoue, which sold 138,460 copies. This classic series ran from 1990 to 1996 and tells the story of a high school team's journey to the national championship. At number 2, we have My Hero Academia by Kohei Horikoshi, which sold a whopping 271,204 copies. This superhero series has been running since 2014 and follows a young boy with no powers who dreams of becoming a hero in a world where most people have them. And finally, at the top of the list, we have Blue Lock by Miyuki Kaneshiro and Yusuke Nomura, which sold 272,446 copies. This soccer manga has been gaining popularity since the anime adaptation aired in July 2021 and follows a group of talented young strikers competing to join the national team. Now let's move on to the best-selling manga volumes of last week. Let's start with the 10th position, which is occupied by Kawaii Dake Janai Shikamori-san Volume 17. This volume was released on February 9th and has sold 36,559 copies till February 12th. Moving on to the 9th position, we have Dikairu Nikko wa Kyu Moyuitsu Volume 7, which was also released on February 9th and has sold 36,600 copies. At the 8th position, we have another volume of Kawaii Dake Janai Shikamori-san, which is Volume 18. Both Volumes 17 and 18 were released on the same date, and Volume 18 has sold 36,709 copies last week. In the 7th position, we have the volume of a popular series called Sakamoto Days, which was released on February 3rd and sold 38,345 copies last week. Moving towards the 6th position, we have Volume 9 of Blue Box, which was released on February 3rd and has made it to the list by selling 43,628 copies. At the 5th position, we have Volume 16 of MF Ghost, which was released on February 6th and has sold 66,380 copies. The 4th position is occupied by the 20th volume of the baseball manga Mix. This volume has sold 67,877 copies within 3 days of its release. Holy Mother of Coincidence, Volume 3 of Yomi no Tsugai has sold 69,965 copies within 3 days of its release, capturing the 3rd position. At the 2nd position of the week, we have Volume 6 of The Fable, Second Contact, which has sold 96,184 copies during the 7 days of the week. Finally, at the top of the list, we have the latest volume of My Hero Academia. Volume 37 was released 10 days ago and has sold a whopping 216,643 copies in the last week. Now, let's move on to the top 10 best-selling light novels of last week. Here's a breakdown of the list. At the 10th position, we have The Detective Is Already Dead, which sold 4,768 copies to make it to the list. Next up, at the 9th position, we have Spy Room, which sold 5,589 copies last week. At the 8th position, we have Suzume no Tajimari, a light novel series from manga and anime fans' very own Christopher Nolan, selling 5,904 copies. Danmachi, which sold 8,535 copies, takes the 7th position in last week's best-selling light novels. At number 6, we have Cygnus Maidens, the irregular at Magic High School, which sold 10,032 copies. The series recently released a new volume which has helped boost its sales. Fate/strangefake, another light novel that recently released a new volume, has made it to the list at the number 5 position. At the 4th position, we have 86. The series also recently released a new volume, selling 12,441 copies last week. Blue Lock, Before the Battle takes the 3rd position in selling, with 15,927 copies sold. At the 2nd position, we have The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, selling 20,168 copies. And finally, at the top spot, we have Zaragoto, which sold 28,325 copies. We have the top 10 best-selling light novels of the previous week. And finally, we have the best-selling light novel volume of last week. Starting at number 10, we have the 2nd volume of The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, which sold 2,479 copies last week. The volume was released on April 14, 2020. Moving on to the 9th position, we have the 1st volume of the same series, which sold 2,559 copies. It was released on June 14, 2019. At number 8, we have Volume 8 of The Detective Is Already Dead, which sold 2,929 copies during the period of February 6 to February 12. This volume was released 17 days ago. The 7th position is also occupied by The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Volume 8 of the series sold 2,993 copies last week. The volume was released on January 14. The 6th position is held by the 13th volume of The Misfit of Demon King Academy. It sold 3,684 copies within 3 days of its release. The 5th position is occupied by Volume 18 of the Danmachi series, which sold 7,110 copies last week. This volume was released 23 days ago. Moving on to the top 4, we have Volume 12 of 86, which sold 9,690 copies within 3 days of its release. The 3rd position is held by Volume 5 of Cygnus Maids, the irregular at Magic High School, which sold 10,032 copies within 3 days of its release. Fate/strangefake Volume 8 sold 10,486 copies to occupy the 2nd position. The volume was released 3 days ago. And finally, at number 1, we have Kidnap Kidding, Aowaro Savant de Zaragoto Zukai no Museum, which sold an impressive 28,325 copies within 5 days. That's it for this week's best-selling manga, light novel, and their volumes. We hope you found this update informative. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more update.